Hi everybody, I'm Esther. Now, let's take a look at some practice exercises for the basic usage of the past perfect tense. Take a look at the first sentence. I blink for 6 hours before I had a break. The verb here is work. Remember, we need to say I had no matter what the subject is. Say had. I had. And then you take the past participle of the verb. In this case, we would say worked. I had worked for 6 hours before I had a break. For the next sentence, I want you to try the negative form. We blink TV before we listened to the radio. Remember, for the negative form, we say had not, or we use the contraction hadn't. We hadn't, and then we need the past participle. We hadn't watched TV before we listened to the radio. Now, find the mistake in the next sentence. Reggie hadn't been to Mexico before he went to Peru. Well, we have the subject here, and for the negative, hadn't is correct. However, we need the past participle of the verb be. So the correct answer is Reggie hadn't been to Mexico before he went to Peru. And finally, Sally and Jan, or they, had do their job. Remember, we need the past participle. We don't say do, we say done. Sally and Jan had done their job before they watched TV. Let's move on. In this checkup, we'll take a look at some practice exercises for the past perfect tense that describes how long. Let's take a look at the first sentence. You blink at the park for 3 hours before you came home. Remember, we start with the subject and then had. So I'm going to add that here. Then we need the past participle of the verb be, and that is been. You had been at the park for 3 hours before you came home. The next sentence says, they blink for 6 hours before they took a break. Again, no matter what the subject, we have had and then the past participle. So the answer is they had studied for 6 hours before they took a break. Now, find the mistake in the next sentence. It's a little bit longer, so it might take you a while. They had been known each other for 10 years before they had their first fight. Can you find the mistake? Well, we have the subject and had, but check this out. There are 2 past participles here. We need to get rid of one of them. We can take out this verb and say they had known each other for 10 years before they had their first fight. The next sentence says, I have played soccer for many years before I scored my first goal. This sentence doesn't look wrong at first, but remember in the past perfect tense, we need to say had. I had played soccer for many years before I scored my first goal. Good job, everybody. Let's move on. Great job, everyone. Now you have a better understanding of the past perfect tense. I know it can be a little difficult, but keep studying and keep practicing and you will get better. I know studying English is not easy, but with time and effort, I know you'll master it. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.